Hello and welcome. What you just heard were 5 sounds that I created on the new Waldorf Protein synthesizer. In this video, I will walk you through the features and design a new patch from scratch to show you the workflow on this little machine. Let's talk about some basics first. This instrument comes in a very small case, but due to the rubber feet, it sits very firmly on the desk. The knobs remind me a lot of the Iridium, and the display is, I think, the same as in the Arturia Mini Freak or Micro Freak, so just to give you an idea of what we have here. The connections on the back are a stereo set of full-size CRS jacks, a little headphone jack, and USB-C. USB-C can be used for cats. Neptune. I'm trying to record a video here. Maybe you want to sit here for a minute. Where was I? USB-C is for power and also for MIDI. I personally like to use the standard MIDI stuff, for which you need an adapter. Fortunately, Waldorf ships 2 of them, so you have the right adapters. I personally would have preferred standard DIN MIDI, and also the standard jacks would fit in here nicely. But I don't know, maybe the board is too small. There must be some reasons why they decided to use those mini jacks. When I first got the Protein, my idea was, they took the Wavetable engine out of the Iridium and built it into their own little synthesizer. But that is actually wrong, and I discovered by tweaking some sounds and doing some comparisons with the Iridium that they actually modeled the Protein after the microwave plugin. Let me show you what this actually means. This is a patch that I programmed on the Protein. And if we have a look here at some scopes, you can see that there is a lot of stuff I would call aliasing going on in the higher ranges. In comparison, let's listen to the same sound. I tried to recreate this as closely as possible using the same wavetables and the same envelopes on the Iridium. You immediately hear that it's much smoother and all that aliasing here in the high range is missing. The Iridium has some modes to emulate those old gritty microwave PPG wave style sounds. So let's see what happens. First, I can switch this to a mode in which the interpolation between the wavetables are stepped. So this will then sound like that. But still, all those aliasing noises are missing. I can also enable those on the Iridium as well, but then Even in the later phase of the chord, it doesn't sound so good at all. Let's compare this again to the new Protein synthesizer with the same patch. To me, this is much more musical because those aliasing noises are not so static. There's always some movement and something going on in the higher range. Now I would like to design a completely new sound from scratch on the Protein to illustrate how the workflow is on the synthesizer. It has only a few knobs and a very small display, so the question is it really convenient and easy to use, and how can you program a completely new patch from scratch? I really like that the Protein has an init combination on the panel, so by hitting Shift and init and confirming this with the select button, we get a fresh preset, which sounds like this. You need to understand that we have 4 layers, and you can always select the layer you're working on here with those buttons. And whenever you store a preset, it stores everything here, all the 4 layers in one preset. So there is no multi-mode where you need to track which patch is used in which multi. You can just do whatever you want and then save it. And it's also possible to copy layers from one preset to the other. Each layer has 2 oscillators. So first you want to maybe make sure that you hear only one oscillator. And you will now notice when I touch something here in the oscillator section that the display jumps to the oscillator section. The display would jump to the filter section once I touch something in the filter section. It's very convenient and easy to understand that the display follows whatever you're doing. It's also possible to click on the edit button here and select whatever page you would like to edit, but I find it very intuitive and I rarely use this edit button to go to a certain page. I now select the second oscillator, and yes, I have to use the shift function to lower the volume of oscillator 2. Back to oscillator 1, I can select from one of 64 different wavetables. Those are the classic wavetables that you probably know from the other Waldorf synthesizers all the way back to the original microwave. I select a wavetable called Strong Harmonics, and with the wave knob, I can change the sound of the wavetable. And have a look again at the scope to see what kind of rich overtone spectrum the wavetable makes. In the lower ranges, you immediately hear those aliasing artifacts. I want to create a pad sound, so I need to change the envelopes. There are 3 envelopes: the wave envelope, which should change the wavetable position. Then there is a filter envelope and a volume envelope. In the modulation matrix, you can assign them to anything else you want, but of course it's convenient to have 3 envelopes for the 3 parts of the sound. So in order to change the amp envelope, I move this first knob here, and then you can see in the display that the attack phase is now selected. So make this a bit longer. And in order to change the release time, I need to move the select knob and go over to the release time and change it here. Unfortunately, there are no dedicated knobs for attack, decay, sustain, and release, but it works with this thing here. And of course, now we have a misalignment between the actual knob and the value. But I find that the takeover mode works quite well. I still personally would have preferred encoders for all positions, but I talked to Rolf from Waldorf and he likes those more. And the longer you work with one sound, of course, it makes more sense because you have a more tactile feeling for what you're doing, especially on the filter and other stuff. But yeah, I think it's a matter of taste if you prefer encoders or those things. But like I said, parameter jumps don't happen because there's a very good implemented takeover mode and relative smoothing mode, which can be activated or deactivated in the settings, depending on what you like. Let's talk about the filter. Now I would like to make this a bit more smooth, so I lower the cutoff frequency. Maybe like this. We could also apply some envelope amount on the filter and change the filter envelope correspondingly. So that we get a little bump of higher frequencies at the beginning. I would also like to automate the position of the wavetable. So I am using the wavetable envelope here. This is the amount. And then I also need to adjust attack and decay to a slow setting. And then with each note, the sound moves through the wavetable. Let's add a little modulation to the pitch and jump into the modulation matrix. We have two LFOs here. Once you touch the speed knob, you can select between LFO 1 and 2. And there are different shapes: sine, triangle, pulse, random, and whatever. And also there's a little LED showing you the speed, which is a feature the Iridium, for instance, doesn't have. Once you set this to a speed that you like, you can select the target. Here I would like to move it to pitch and then slowly increase the depth of the modulation amount. And it doesn't work because I didn't select LFO1 as source. Sorry. You can now hear that all the voices move individually, so I'm very happy that once I have one of the two LFOs selected, I can click on this stuff here to go into the details. And here I can select the LFO mode from voice to global, and now all the voices move together. I would also like to add some space to that sound, so I'm going to the next slot in the modulation matrix. There are currently 8 states of those, and I select LFO2, and I route this to the panorama. Maybe a little slower. I would like to add the second oscillator. So I'm going back to the oscillator page, select oscillator 2 and increase the level. And unlike the original microwave, I can now select a different wavetable for the second oscillator. So maybe I go for the formant vocal. is a bit loud, so I lower the volume here. And also I can change the pitch to +7 to create an interesting overtone spectrum here. And I also want to have the wave envelope on this as well. Of course, this sound screams for some effects, so let me quickly show you how this goes here on the Protein. We have 2 knobs for the effects and 2 slots. So by touching anything, we get to the effect menu, and I would then first maybe select a delay. Then the upper knob always is the wet and dry ratio, and with the shift function, you can select which parameter you would like to have. And then with the other one, you can change the correspondent parameter that you selected. And I'm doing that wrong all the time because this is the least intuitive part of that synthesizer from my point of view. So let's hear how the delay sounds. It's also possible to add high and low cut to the tail, and let me also increase the feedback a little bit more. Those 2 effects work in serial mode, so when I now select the other slot and I take a reverb, the outcoming signal from the delay goes into the reverb. Here I would like to have a very long time, and also it's possible to filter out some of the frequencies. Anything below 50 is dampening the high frequencies, and everything above 50 is lowering the low frequencies. And also there is some modulation stuff going on, like a chorus in the section. If you have been listening to some of my music before, you know that I'm a big fan of external reverb plugins. So in a real-life situation, I would rather use a setup like this. So this is it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. If you have any questions about the Protein or ideas what I should talk about and show you with this synthesizer, just let me know in the comments, and have a good day.